Hello, friends, and welcome to the Cinemondo podcast with Kathy and Burk. Mark is on another assignment right
Secret
now.
mission. We
Yeah,
can't
he's on
talk about it.
a
We shouldn't even
secret.
say that. It's secret.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. We shouldn't. Don't say anything about the CIA or anything like that.
Nothing to do with that. Nope.
No, he's definitely not a spy. So,
Not.
right,
Okay.
not a spy. Yeah, right. So anyway, we're going to talk about a filmmaker today. There's a new film that just came out or is about to come out by a filmmaker that some of you may have heard about, sort of obscure guy named Steven Spielberg.
Batman's name is Steven Spielberg.
That-
remember my first trip to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We were on the Universal tour, and they've been talking about there's this guy did all these great things, and that man's name was Steven Spielberg.
Well, the story was there was a young man on the tram going through the back lot, and he jumped off the back lot and he ran into a production office and he sat down at a desk and he produced a movie. It's like he went immediately and became a director just by jumping off the tram.
By being a criminal and trespassing. He made a movie career out of it. See, it can happen.
And that man's name was Steven
Burk
Spielberg.
sauce.
And that's what they used to do that on the tram. They may still do it. I
They
don't
love
know.
that story.
But it's a great story.
Well,
And,
Steven Spielberg is still the hero of Universal. He's still,
Yes.
one of their biggest stars. So
he's got his when I had my office at Universal, it was very close to Spielberg's,
has
and that
his
was
own-
always kind of fun. It's like, oh yeah, I'm
love
right
that.
to the left of Amblin,
Yeah.
or DreamWorks, and
that's why I
and-
led walking around the lot, and then I can walk down Steven Spielberg's street down to his little cottage.
yeah, turn left on Jimmy Stewart and
right.
hang a right on Jay Ward.
It has a special little guard at the door on that stretch of the road. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Come in here, Darwin.
Darwin's he's visiting because he also loves Steven Spielberg.
He's talking. He's saying something. I don't know.
I heard that.
Yeah. Ow.
Ow.
But
So anyway-
Spielberg has made some of my favorite movies, and he's made some that I'm like, eh. And
He's made my most favorite movie, which is Jaws.
yeah.
And then he's made a lot of other movies.
He made one of my favorite movies, which a lot of people didn't like.
Oh.
AI,
Yeah, I
artificial
did love that.
intelligence. I go on and on about that movie,
Yeah, I didn't know it.
and I just think it's a combination. I mean, it's to me, I think of it more as a Stanley Kubrick film.
Yeah, it felt like a bad fit for Spielberg. It didn't seem like his kind of movie, but he brought his Spielbergian sensibility to it. I think I would go with Raiders before I would go with that for sure. But
Yeah, I love Raiders. Yeah, I
but
have
he's
the
a legend, so he has a new movie. Oh yeah, there you go. Mhm.
yes. If we get the light just right, we can find out where the arc is.
That's
Hold on.
true. And then, but your face might melt, so be careful.
Oh shoot! Yeah, I forgot
Don't do
about
that. Because I
Yeah.
think it only happens to Nazis, but I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
So it won't happen to you.
But the thing
he's got a
about
new movie.
Spielberg is that he doesn't really. When you see him in interviews, a lot of times you don't. I feel like we don't know too much about him as a person. You don't.
Mhm.
I mean, the things that you hear about him are those sort of legends, the fables of
Making
how
Jaws.
making Jaws and behind the scenes stuff and making Duel and getting his first gig on the Night Gallery directing famous actresses and getting breaks, breaking into the business by being this plucky young filmmaker.
Mhm.
But where did that come from? And who is he as a person? And why are his movies generally? I think they're sort of generally escapist fantasies, science fiction fantasies. Indiana Jones, E.T., these childhood fantasies. He works with children really well. That sort of childlike fantasy world of children.
Yep.
Those are the things we associate with him.
Yeah.
Put aside Jaws for a second, which is a flat out horror film, I think. Which
I think so. It's
but
about-
he's apparently made a film that addresses. I guess I
mysteries.
haven't seen this, but from what I've heard, it's his childhood.
Yeah, it's like a movie based on a lot of his, I guess, experiences. It's not like biographical technically, but there's a lot of biographical details, maybe.
So
and
kinda like
inspirations.
The Weird Al Yankovic film, where it's
Exactly.
it's like his biography.
Sort of. But yeah, I have no idea. You know, it's funny. I have not watched this trailer yet. It's a little late in the game, but I just haven't watched it yet. I, you know, I haven't been super thrilled with a lot of the latest Spielberg. I'll just say it. West
Yeah.
Side Story, no thanks. I mean, I just didn't want it. You know, I don't need it. But I am interested in this because I would like to see like what is Steven Spielberg's childhood like? Like, is it relatable? You know, how is it? I mean, it's got a really interesting cast, so I'm kind of interested in seeing where that goes. You know, it's like it's got, you know, Michelle Williams, Seth Rogen, like
Yeah.
weird things like that. So I'm very interested in seeing that. In fact, where is that
And I
list?
wonder if it addresses those kind of things, like why does he seem to excel with the escapist fantasies? You kind of
Right.
wonder, did he have kind of a sad childhood that made him
Yeah.
that got him into those escapist kind of movies? Because when he talks about the films that inspired him, they're all those kind of escapist Saturday matinee kind
Yeah.
of, the things that ultimately came out in the Indiana Jones films, where it was that kind of young boys adventure
Yeah.
type stuff.
Okay, so starring Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, Seth Rogen, Gabriel LaBelle, and Judd Hirsch.
Yeah,
Oh,
Judd
of
Hirsch.
course he would
Yeah,
get this all-star cast. Why wouldn't he? Of course,
he can
it's
have
Spielberg.
anybody he wants. Yeah,
Who's gonna say no to Spielberg? All
I
right,
know.
so
I would even be in one of his movies.
I
I
would do. I
mean,
would say yes.
yeah. I mean, if he asked me, even I would say
Mhm.
yes.
I would say it.
So yeah,
All right, so let's take a look at this and see what's going on with Spielberg in his childhood.
yeah. If it's even that, we may be totally
I don't
wrong.
know. I don't. Who knows? Okay, ready?
Here we go.
Okay.
Movies are dreams that you never forget. Sammy?
The lights change how everything looks. It's hard to find our house.
Ours is the dark house with no lights.
In this family, it's the scientists versus the artists. Sammy's on my team, takes after me.
What kind of movie are we gonna make?
Kids on a bike.
Yeah.
You dismiss what he does. It's playful or imaginative. You could afford to be a little encouraging.
She should have been a concert piano player. What she got in her heart is what you got.
You can't just love something, you also have to take care of it. It's more important than your hobby.
Can you stop calling it a hobby?
Mom got a monkey.
Why'd you get a monkey?
Because I needed a laugh.
You always have to be the center of attention.
Stop shouting at her.
That has been nothing but disrespect from you. I'm your mother!
Family, art. It'll tear you in two.
You stop making movies, it'll break your mother's heart.
I don't know what to do anymore.
You do what your heart says you have to.
What was your favorite part?
Okay, as trailers go,
Yeah.
I love John Williams, but that music was way too much for this. I was like, I feel like it was these little personal music, but the sound these big epic. Blah. I feel like a little bit pulled back, like a little bit like quieter, more charactery kind of music would have been more appropriate. But I'm not the studio. I know they're trying to make a Spielberg movie,
Right.
but it felt a little overwrought. But I do love the styling. I thought the styling was very fun. I love the turquoise steering wheel. It's very
Yeah.
nice. And I love the idea of like art, parents not understanding an artist. I can relate to that. And how they feel like, an art, like being art isn't serious. It's just this thing you do on the side.
It's
Now
your
you need to
hobby.
get serious. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I totally get that. Unfortunately, I was able to make art a career and it was my business, but it's
Me
like,
too.
yeah. So don't look down on artists. We can do this shit.
Yeah, I think, I mean, not to sound like this, but sometimes I think people who really want to make a living doing art have to work a little harder to do it, because it's, I mean, it's like that whole thing of like, hold on to your dream. It's like with me, I make a living with art in a weird way. And I feel like, yeah, I held on to my dream, and yeah, I followed my dream, and yeah, I'm making a living doing what I enjoy doing.
Right.
But I feel like it's not just the hard work involved in it. It's the fact that I could not do anything else.
I can't do anything
I
else.
honestly couldn't make a living in any other town or any other industry. I have to play in the land of make-believe.
Right.
That's the only thing I know. It's the only thing I understand. If you put me in an office with spreadsheets and stuff like that, I would be the worst employee in the world.
No, I would not. I can't. And I don't think people, I think a lot of times the artistic temperament and, people being creative like this, we call them an artist. I consider directors film art, and,
Yeah.
there's lots of different kinds of art. There's music, there's, painting, there's film,
Yes.
but we're talking about film.
Yeah.
So he was expressing his artistry through film. It was just, I love how it was just innate. Like they show how he was a kid and he just instantly was seeing everything cinematically. He didn't even have to be trained or taught. It was just like, that's just what he believed and saw.
You
And
get
I feel
it,
the same
yeah.
way. I was always into the movie thing, always. And I could draw and everything. I was an artist, but that wasn't my passion. I wasn't passionate about making art. I wanted to be more involved in film and whatever that took. And so because I could draw, because I was an artist, I was able to kind of parlay that into being sort of movie adjacent, which is doing movie marketing. But I would love to have made a film. I just, just didn't happen.
It's never too late. You can make a movie.
I'm still thinking about it.
You have a 4K film camera in your pocket. Everybody,
I have a phone. I can make a movie.
You can make a movie. You can.
But this, I love how they built that. As like there was an argument within the family where the father's like, "You're not being serious. You need to get serious." And then the mother goes, "Art is serious. That's what he's serious about. It's not a hobby." So I love that there was that little bit of a battle between them, and he almost didn't, in a way, like he didn't know what to think of his mother supporting it, because it's like he almost didn't believe in it himself in a weird way.
Yeah.
But thank God he did, because look at him now. He gets the last laugh.
It's not easy to pursue those, people call them dreams. And I guess it's a dream. It's in a lot of cases, it's something, I mean, do you dream about it? I don't, but it's
I think dreams are like goals,
an idea that you have for your future, like a daydream kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see yourself, because when I was young, I always thought I was going to be a comic book artist. I wanted to be a comic book artist. And I used to try, and I would try to learn how to draw, and I tried to draw comic books, and I realized, wow, this is a lot of work. And I am not inclined to do that much work.
And also, like, even when you think about it, seriously, people don't realize it's not just fun and games.
Right.
Oh, make a pretty picture. The thing that also, especially you want to be in the film business and you're an artist, a lot of artists aren't in the, aren't business oriented. So you have to find a way to succeed in the business to become a filmmaker. So the business is brutal, so much competition, so much judgment. You don't even necessarily have to be good. There's like an X factor. So fortunately, Steven Spielberg is very talented, but that wasn't why he necessarily got into the business. It isn't just why he's making films. It's like he had a whole extra level of savvy and selling himself and knowing how to work the business, because that's almost as important as the creativity alone, because tons of creative people and tons of great movies go away. Burke's doing filmmaking in his office.
I know that's a zoom in. They call that in the business.
That was awesome. That's in the biz. We call that a close up.
We call that a close up. And in the lingo,
we'll give you some of this inside lingo, filmmaking lingo,
the jargon. Yeah, this is a dolly. I'm dollying in. Yes.
Yeah, I can dolly too.
Excellent. That adds tension. Adds tension.
Everyone's scared now.
But that is the thing. I remember, when I was a kid, I got a Super 8 camera as soon as I could, and started making films, by myself upstairs, like in the attic at a little place. And
Classic.
I did the thing with the toy trains, except I didn't have very nice trains. I think I used to use a lot of junk. I used to build my own stuff.
That makes it better though. You're a prop master and a filmmaker.
Well, that's where I was a prop master, not primarily prop master, but I was a prop fabricator, prop designer, conceptual designer type for a couple of decades out here in Hollywood. Right. And it came from loving the trappings of films, the things, right. the objects. And it came from watching things like, the old fantasy films from Jason and the Argonauts and all that. Mm-hmm. And seeing the weapons. I think one of the things that kind of blew my mind early on was Star Trek, the original TV series, with the phasers and the communicators. Right. And I think Logan's Run, that movie, I love those blaster guns they had and a lot of the props, the crystal in the hand. And that was what got me into the prop world. Mm-hmm. And then, I got a little bit older and started paying attention to the stories and the writing and things like that. But yeah, Spielberg is the kid that we all were, all of us who work in the industry and entertainment industry and have these aspirations, these ideas, these dreams that we want to make films. I think a lot of us think back to when we first heard about Steven Spielberg and how he made his films. And it was one of those things where it may have been the first time where we heard more about the behind the scenes stuff, because I remember when Jaws came out, other films would come out and you would just watch the movie and you accepted that the things that happened in the film happened, or I don't know how they did that. But I remember when Jaws came out, I remember seeing on television there was some kind of behind the scenes thing, and you actually saw the mechanical shark and you saw the actors laughing between takes, and you saw them laying on the in the shark's mouth, and a picture of Spielberg in the shark's mouth, like and
famous.
So you got back in those old days, you got a bit of a taste of like, wow, they're making this thing, they're building these things, and there's guys out there that are in the water cranking up the gears on the fake shark and making sure that it rolls correctly across the track towards the camera. And
it was a constant problem because of the seawater and everything else. Yeah.
But to me, I remember thinking, that is so cool. I wanted to build my own mechanical shark,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who wouldn't? You're like, but then it also made you realize like what's possible. It's like, I can pretty much make anything possible if I can think about it long enough and have the money or the know-how, or people do know how to do it. I can make whatever it is I need for whatever movie I'm making.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. This guy, I mean, he has this insane career. And some of these movies I completely forgot that he did. We can run down the list. So first of all, he directed, like you said, Night Gallery before.
With Joan Crawford. I mean, one of his first gigs with Joan Crawford.
Marcus Welby. Who knew that?
Yeah, he did Marcus Welby. Yeah, Columbo. Yep.
Columbo. Then he did Duel, and then everything changed. No more TV.
Duel still stands up so well.
Good.
That is such a great movie.
He did a movie called Savage.
Yeah.
Sugarland Express. That was Goldie Hawn. I vaguely remember it, but that's like one of those like classic road pictures,
Right.
From the 70s.
Wacky, yeah.
Then he did Jaws, and that's when it was next level after that. All of a sudden, he was the guy. So then we went from Jaws to Close Encounters. These are all iconic films. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1941. It was okay. Not my favorite.
Yeah, a little bit weird. It's like just a little bit hyperactive and.
Yeah, it's okay. So then he left that behind, and he went to Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. More iconic films.
Right.
Then he went to E.T. This guy's just on fire. So many.
Not a fan of E.T., to be honest.
I did at the time. I loved E.T. at the time. I think because it tapped into some sort of like I think me loving animals. I was so used to liking animals no one liked, and it was like, trying to protect and save everything. I related to it on that level of him being like a little animal.
Oh, yeah. Well, I just felt, I remember that was one of the first times I felt like I was being manipulated at, you know what I mean? Like you were talking about the music being a little overwhelming. I felt like E.T. was just like too much like E.T. And the other thing I thought about it was that I didn't like the design of the creature. I thought it was a ugly, unappealing creature that to me never looked like it was alive. I never got the feeling that E.T. was a living creature. I always thought it was this mechanical.
Well, I mean, the
Like,
effects were a lot more primitive back then. We didn't have CGI, and it was a little more primitive. But yeah, he wasn't. It wasn't pretty. I mean, he should look like Baby Yoda, honestly.
Well, Yoda, you know, back in those days, Yoda was a puppet too. That was
He
that
was
looked
kinda ugly.
real, but it looked
He
like a
did not look
living.
real.
To me, it looked like a living thing, but E.T. looked like a mechanical thing, and E.T. was all run by wires and cables and stuff,
Yeah.
while Yoda was actually puppeteered by a Frank Oz, who was a puppet master.
So it might have been better to have a puppet versus like kind of engineered. Then we had Twilight Zone. He did a segment on the Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
Oh, that was an interesting movie.
he did Kick the Can segment in that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is based on a real episode.
Yeah, and then we had Indiana Jones Temple Doom,
Yep.
and then he did a thing for me called Strokes of Genius, which I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if I saw that. Then we went into the Amazing Stories.
Amazing Stories
part
thing,
of his
yeah.
career, where there was that series that was on for a while. Amazing Stories, that kind of adventure type TV series. Color Purple, which was good.
Yeah.
Empire of the Sun. He started getting more into like more important, like less escapism, and he was sort of trying to get into more issue kind of related movies.
With very young Batman in that film.
That's right. That's right.
Christian
Christian
Bale.
Bale. God, it's so weird to think. Indiana Jones and Last Crusade. So Indiana Jones is peppered throughout.
Yeah.
So it's like you're just gonna constant every few years we get another Indiana Jones movie. Then a movie called Always, which I don't know if I ever saw that.
I saw that, and it was not. I remember thinking, "Ugh, this is
What
like."
was it?
Wasn't it about the afterlife and isn't Audrey Hepburn, I think, is in it, and I think Richard Dreyfuss, and somebody dies, and she's an angel, and it was just
Holly Hunter.
Yeah, it just to me, it just was like I felt like okay, he's just phoning this in.
So the spirit of a recently deceased expert pilot mentors a
Yeah.
newer pilot while watching him fall in love with a girl. No wonder I didn't see it. Okay, so there's that, and then
Yeah.
I mean,
This
the
was
list
kind of
goes
like
on and on.
to me, the low part of the career.
Yeah, he started. It was all getting very sentimental, and
Right.
I feel like it wasn't more. It was less about entertainment, more about sentimental, kind of schmaltzy. He can lean that way. I mean, Spielberg can kind of go very nostalgic. Sometimes it works.
Sometimes they call that Spielbergian.
Spielbergian, and that trailer we saw was very amped up, nostalgic Spielbergian thing that they kind of in a way just amplified by having just that overwrought music through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So then he went from that to Hook, just Hook,
yeah.
not the Hook,
The
Hook,
Hook.
which was unwatchable. I mean, so
Yeah.
that was a complete failure right there. So he tried it. He went,
Some
not so
people
great.
love that movie, though.
I don't know
Some
anyone who
people
loves that movie.
I think people who were really young when it came out and they remember it as being a movie they saw when they were kids.
God, geez, that was bad.
Yeah.
Then we have Schindler's List. So then he goes from the worst. Oh no, I'm sorry, Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park.
Another
yeah.
iconic film. So we went Jurassic Park, which was mind blowing.
Yeah.
We had not seen anything. I mean, dinosaurs are real. They just existed. You saw the movie, you're like, okay, we have dinosaurs now. That was incredible, and it kicked off a whole other kind of genre.
And it's when you started realizing that he has some tropes, there's like, I mean, you remember in Close Encounters, there was the Spielberg face,
Spielberg looking up in awe. Yeah, always.
And in Jurassic Park, there's that thing where Laura Dern almost parodies it. There's a scene where her mouth goes open a little bit too much, where she's like,
what?
and it's like, that's a bit too
It's a bit
Spielbergian,
much.
but
Yeah.
still great movie, mind-blowing
Well-
special effects, which he's always been a pioneer of special effects. He's always pushed the special effects and had really great people working with him
Yeah.
on that.
And he's just done so many films. They can't all be great, but a huge, probably more than a lot of filmmakers, more are better good than bad. So then we go into, we have so that was Schindler's List.
Schindler's
Jurassic
List,
Park
which
is
is-
just Schindler's List. Complete opposite of Jurassic
Yeah.
Park.
And Schindler's List is harrowing. That's a pretty amazing emotional film. I didn't feel as, I felt with E.T., I felt like I was being, manipulated at. But with Schindler's List, it could have gone that way. Of course, very powerful emotional subject matter, of course, and based in reality, of course. but I didn't feel manipulated. I felt like that was beautiful filmmaking. I felt like that was something that came from his heart. He really wanted to make this film, and he wasn't. There's nothing about it that he phoned in. You know, he wasn't relaxing on any of that. That's a full filmmaking film.
And the choice to do black and white was a very bold choice.
Yeah.
So then we have then back to Jurassic Park, Lost World.
Right.
So then, you know, he brought that up a little notch. It felt a little like retread, but it was still, you know, well-made film, and you know, it's still good.
It's fun. It's, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he was still directing them, so it still had that touch.
Yeah.
Then we get into one of Burke's favorites, AI.
Well, before that was Saving Private Ryan, I believe, which is
oh yeah, I did skip over Saving Private Ryan.
well, Amistad, and which, you know, I don't know, but Saving Private Ryan, I'm a huge. I read a lot about
God,
World
I
War
don't
II,
even remember Amistad. What the hell was that?
Yeah, it's sort of a one that I haven't really paid much attention to over the years, but
1839 revolt, Spanish owned ship. Okay, I do remember.
Yeah, I mean,
Anthony Hopkins.
it's probably good, but I never saw it. So
no, I'm not gonna.
But Saving Private Ryan, I'm really into World War II history and things like that. And not too long ago, my wife and I went to the Normandy beaches and walked around in those places and explored. And Saving Private Ryan is a World War II film, you know, that of course you know that. And it's got that opening scene, you know, the landing on the D-Day beach and all that. And Tom Hanks and a lot of our other favorite actors are in that. Yeah. It's a little bit overwrought, a little bit in some places. It's very Spielbergian.
Yeah.
But still, I think it's pretty, it still packs a punch. It's still pretty well made storytelling. You know, it's hard to say fun to watch, but it is, it is interesting to watch.
It's rough. Yeah.
It's got a murder, a killing scene in it that is like almost impossible to watch. Yeah. It's like,
but it's almost, the stars were almost too big in that movie. Like they were distracting to me. Like I just felt like, I don't know, but you know, Tom Hanks, and then, who was the other star that,
I think Matt Damon, was it Matt
Damon? He was like, he kind of like, here I am, gotta go, and they leave. You're like, well, what the hell?
Well, and he's Private Ryan, you know. It's
like he's in it for 1 second. The whole movie is about that. So that was weird to me.
Well, it was the concept of Saving Private Ryan is what the story was. But I like
saving him, but we're not gonna actually show him.
Yeah, but it was the quest, you know.
It was the quest. It was, and then
AI, which
which Burke loves.
I love that movie. I am a big advocate of that film. I think people miss the point of that film a lot of times. I don't want to sound pretentious or judgmental or condescending, but I think a lot of you film critics out there talked about this movie in a way that missed the point of it.
What was the point that we missed?
Well, the one thing that film critics were saying is it's like this happy ending, and they said it was very Spielbergian. And to me, I think he made that film as an homage to his friend Stanley Kubrick. It was a film Kubrick had worked on for many years and had done tons of pre-production and tons of thinking and scripting and work and conceptual work on it. And he got to the point where he was getting older, and he thought, you know what, I don't know if I can put myself into another film like this. So he gave it to Steven Spielberg. And I think Spielberg could have taken it and rehashed it, reworked it, Spielbergized it. But he, I think, made a really beautiful homage to Stanley Kubrick. It's got a lot of what Kubrick wanted in it, but it's not a happy story. It is a dark, very dark story. You know, not unlike a lot of Stanley Kubrick's films. They don't all have happy endings, or the ending is kind of ambiguous. Like the end of 2001, it's like, what, you know, where are we at the end of that film? But the thing about AI is that it has a very dark ending, but it's about the idea of artificial intelligence and what is it. One of the characters in the film says, what do we owe that? You know, it's like how we feel sometimes when we throw away an old computer or an old, sell an old car. We feel like, oh, it's my car. I have so many.
We're attached to it.
What if that thing really looked and sounded and talked like a person?
Well, I have a robot dog. I have that Aibo.
Yeah.
And you really do like relate to it. Like it just needs eyes. It needs to,
Right.
it acts like an animal. It reacts to you. It's happy. It's sad. You know, it's like, so you can see how you would get attached to anything that even remotely, you know, whether it's like you get your favorite shirt, you're attached to that. But when you give it attributes that show emotion, it becomes a whole other level.
Yeah, you know, if a pen stops working, you don't even think about it. You throw it in the trash, you know, an old ballpoint pen or something. But you know, or a printer or a computer printer or something like that. You know, how many times have you tossed those in the trash and say, "Good
Just
riddance"?
like
You know, I got a new one, the old microwave. You know,
Yeah.
But when you have like your robot dog, imagine how it would make your heart feel if you threw that in the trash can.
Oh, it'd be sad. It'd be sad. So then we go to Minority Report, which was a big star-studded thing, but it, you know, that's a kind of movie where I feel like felt like a little below Spielberg for me for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, it was a huge hit. It was a big star. It just felt like this wasn't kind of a Spielberg kind of movie for me. I don't know why.
It's a Tom Cruise movie more than a
It is.
Spielberg movie. It's one of those movies that feels like this is about Tom Cruise. You know.
Yeah. Then there's Catch Me If You Can, which also felt like, what is this? It does not feel like an epic. Like Spielberg feels like he should be doing epics. So when he does these kind of movies, you feel like it's kind of a waste in a way. Like I saw Catch Me If You Can. That could have been directed by anybody, really. I mean,
Right.
there was nothing Spielberg, you know. I mean, I thought, not that I didn't enjoy it. It just felt like, I mean, when I saw it on the list, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot he did that.
And The Terminal right after that too.
And The
so
Terminal.
kind of not
that's
super
not-
memorable. But then War of the Worlds.
Yeah, then he's like, okay, I'm going back to my sweet spot, which is doing cool epic films, which was, like you said, War of the Worlds.
And it's a bit of a little bit more of a Tom Cruise movie than a Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
But it's I like it. I think it's kind of a fun movie. It's an interesting
Totally
interpretation.
fun.
I did a little bit of day work on that backgroundy kind of stuff, and got to talk to some of the people in the film about the idea of one thing that always is funny about it is the fact that it's such a famous story, War of the Worlds, you know, H.G. Wells.
Yeah.
One of the most famous science fiction stories, but no characters in the film ever say, "Hey, this is just like War of the Worlds."
Yeah, exactly. It's in a world without War of the World.
Yeah.
And then we
or
go
Tom
to
Cruise.
Munich.
Nobody says, "Hey, you look like Tom Cruise."
No. Yeah, no, exactly. Then there's the Munich, which I totally forgot he directed. And I don't know if I even saw it.
Right.
Then Indiana Jones again. It's time for another Indiana Jones film.
Yeah.
That was a Crystal Skull. I gotta say that wasn't my favorite.
Not
Wasn't
the
great.
best.
No.
I wish it didn't have that what's his name kid in it. You know that
So what's his
who
name?
is the
Who was it?
troubled young actor boy?
Oh right, yeah, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he just kind of drags that movie down, I think.
He does. And then there came a stretch of films I never saw. Like I
Right.
used to see every Spielberg movie that came out, and then I just lost interest. Then we get into The Adventures of Tintin, which I never saw. War Horse, which I'm not going to see because it looks sad, and I know they're going to kill the horse eventually, so I'm not going to see that.
Yeah.
Then Lincoln, which didn't want to see that. I know I sound
Right.
terrible right now. Bridge of Spies, which I did see, but it was okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like another one like that was Spielberg.
Right. Yeah.
Something called BFG. I
Yeah.
don't even know what that is. And then there's The Post,
Yeah.
which I think, again, these just feel like movies anyone could have directed.
I know. Yeah.
Except they have huge stars. It's like Meryl Streep is in The Post. You know, they have really big stars in that. And then we have, let's see,
Ready Player One.
Ready Player One, which
overwhelming explosion of sensory input kind of a film.
you know, I listened to, I read the book, Ready Player One, and listened to the audiobook, and I loved it. It was super fun. But they did not get it in Ready Player One. Didn't happen.
Right.
I felt like there was something missing that was, in a way, should have been Spielberg's sweet spot, which is the humanity of it. Which I
Right.
feel like they didn't get.
And the pop culture thing.
Yeah. I mean, so then we have, let's see.
West
after
Side
that-
Story.
No way. Not going to see that.
Yeah. Well, there's already a West Side Story. That's, I mean, that movie. How can you?
Don't remake that.
How can you improve on that? Or I mean,
And
it
then we
is-
arrive
yeah.
at the Fablemans.
Right.
So it looks like he's going back to his Spielbergian sweet spot, which is making
Right.
something really nostalgic and beautiful. And that he really has a way with directing kids to make them feel very real, but like not too cloying, which he finds really good kid actors for number one. That's really hard to do. I mean, a bad kid actor can ruin anything. I'm talking about Leia and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who really sucked. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say you suck. You're a child, but you're still terrible.
Oh, that's so mean.
But it's really hard to find good kid actors, and you appreciate it when you see a good one. Which this kid in the movie looks good because he's not overdoing it. He just looks like he's being like a kid being, and not being like. So, I mean, it looks cute. It looks cute. I mean, it's not really my kind of movie, but I'm kind of intrigued. It might be a fun holiday kind of movie, which is why it's coming out now, right?
Right.
So yeah, it might be.
Hopefully, it's a feel good. I guess it would be a feel good movie because he ultimately did become a famous filmmaker.
Yeah, it's like he would say, "Fuck you, Dad."
Yeah, you sort of know how it ends. Yeah.
So I don't know. So there's our Spielberg breakdown, and then our basic reaction to the Fablemans, which we thought, tone it down just a teeny bit. John Williams, just a teeny bit.
But then again, John Williams is such a huge part of Steven Spielberg.
Oh, he is Steven Spielberg for sure.
There's an interesting concept there that maybe it's on purpose that there's that sort of grabbing at your heartstrings kind of music in this, because
they weren't just grabbing, they were completely tearing them out. I mean, that was like, and also it's partly also the trailer company. I assume Spielberg might have a say in it, but whoever's doing the trailer, they were like, use that part of the score that's really big instead of using like the beginning of the John Williams score, which probably would have been more appropriate, like a little bit lighter. They just went rah the whole time, so it's just a bit much. I kept expecting something to explode. It was just like building, and then it was over.
Right.
Okay. But that's Spielberg. But anyway, I've always loved Spielberg. I think he's been great. He's a solid filmmaker. I don't love all his films, but he brings a level of competency and uniqueness and artistry that a lot of film directors die to have,
Yeah, he's made more great films than bad films, I think.
Yes, definitely. And iconic, not even just good, but like landmark, insane films. No one's been able to make Jaws again.
And almost for my entire film going lifetime too, which is another one of those things. It's like he's a constant. I've put him in the same category as someone like Stephen King, where he has just always been there and will always be there.
That's right.
I hope. And it's like there's always going to be a new Steven Spielberg film or a Stephen King book. And and there's a few others like that. But, Stanley Kubrick was one of them too. But, hopefully we'll have King and Spielberg around for
hope so.
For more.
So anyway, let us know what you think of Spielberg. What's your favorite Spielberg film? What's your least favorite Spielberg film? I don't know if I have a least favorite, but I don't know yet. I don't know. Yeah. It's hard to say least favorite, but
did your love, if you're watching this podcast, maybe
did you relate?
You love movies, but what part of your love of films have you ever acted on that? Have you ever made your own films when you were a kid? Did you ever get a video camera and make a movie or a Super 8 or your phone or something and make a short film and try your own hand at filmmaking? That's something I think that when you love films, sometimes you want to make your own or make your own animated film or something. Right. And that's fascinating because what it does, it gives you a better understanding of how films are made, and it maybe makes you love films even more.
And did you ever have any struggles against, family members or friends or, wives, spouses of you trying to express your art, your artistry in whatever way and trying to make something out of it, and you were getting a lot of pushback about it,
or whatever your career was, like even if it's not a creative career, if somebody wanted to do something that parents didn't approve of or something, or
which is usually art.
Yeah.
Nobody wants people to be artists. I mean, because they don't get paid. It's really hard. And
and you're just gonna.
They don't understand it. Yeah,
only 1 in a million can make it. That's what they always say. You'll never make it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just have to really, really, really love it, and to want to pursue a career that uses your actual artist side of your brain, because it's super draining, more draining than anything else. Because it's attached to emotions. So
it's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible to get your foot in the door. They say
it's impossible, but here we are.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
So it's persistence is part of it too. So
it takes a lot of bribery, a lot of bribes. Yeah.
Bribes help.
Yeah.
If you're an artist, you need to be sure and bribe people. All right. So next time you take the Universal tour, if you've taken one recently, let us know if they're still telling that Steven Spielberg story, if they've updated it.
Yeah.
Include some new films that he's done. I'd like to know.
Yeah. Jump off that tram and go on into an office and see if you can produce a
You
film.
work there. No one will notice. No one will care.
Let us know what happens.
God. Universal calls it about what the fuck did you just say? Anyway, so be sure and like, subscribe, and comment. Please join our membership. You get lots of content. You get videos of reviews that you don't actually see on our channel. They're all just private reviews. By each of us. You get to get badges and emojis, and you get the invitation to our Slack channel. So you get direct access to us and all the other people who are members, and we have a great time in there talking about movies and suggesting trailers and content to put on the channel. So that is the way to do it.
Yes.
All right. So I'll see you guys later. That scares me.
Well, that was fun talking about Spielberg. Yeah.
Spielberg.
I mean, I know he's super mainstream and all that, and everybody
mainstream.
knows everything about Steven Spielberg, and you've heard it a million times. But it's kind of fun to go dig back in and go through it. And I think
I'd forgotten he directed some of that stuff that I was listing.
And this film coming up seems like maybe his personal film.
Yeah.
So,
The most personal, for sure.
Evidently, yeah.
Yeah, there's kids on bikes. Spielbergian.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Maybe they don't fly, though. I don't know.
Let's do that Spielberg look while we sign off.
Yeah. All right.
Which way should
Thanks
we go?
for joining us.
What?